Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unlocking New Horizons Shopify Editions 2024 Key Updates with Woolman, Klevu, and J.Lindeberg. We'll get started officially in about 45 seconds to a minute. But in the meantime, please do introduce yourself in the chat. We want to know where you're from. We want to know where you work, even if there's something in particular that you're really excited about. And yeah, we'll get started very soon. Andreas, you are getting ready for an event, aren't you?
Yes, my beautiful background here from the hotel room in Gothenburg, Gothia Towers. It's a D Congress here in Gothenburg. It's pretty big Nordic e-commerce show, both a lot of speakers, but also a bit of a trade show. So you can walk booth to booth and get the talk and chit chat and catch up a bit in the hallways. So it's always a nice gathering. It's been here for, I think, 10 years soon in Gothenburg. So it's a pretty steady one. Looking forward, 2 days.
Sounds awesome. Mikko, Tero, are you going or not this year?
I'm not unfortunately going this year. How about Mikko?
Sadly not. I'm already leaving to the States this week, so there's shop talk in Vegas coming up. So that's my goal. But it's good to see Andreas going there, and I heard some really good feedback related to the event. So I hope everybody will have a great time in Gothenburg.
Okay, so we are going to get started. I wanted to tell everyone too, please do react to what's going on via the emojis. It's really cool if you put an emoji into the chat and then you press enter, we can see it. So it's really nice just to kind of, for us to, yes, exactly that. While we're going through, please do ask questions as we go. We want to capture everything that you're wondering so that we can either answer it live or answer it after. And yeah, let's kick off. So welcome, really nice to see you. My name is Rachel Tonner. I'm VP of Marketing at Klevu. Here also with us, we have Tero Juntila, who is CTO and co-founder at Woolman. Tero has been working with enterprise digital commerce for over 15 years. He's pushed Shopify to its limits with very complicated setups. So thank you so much for being on today. And he's been really heavily involved with Shopify B2B, POS, Shopify Markets, functionalities as well. We have Andreas Koschnike, head of e-commerce at J.Lindeberg, which is both a Klevu and a Woolman client. Very happy to have you here. J.Lindeberg is a fashion brand. Andreas is a fashion and retail e-commerce specialist. He started his own shop back in 2004, so very long in the business. Wonderful to have your wisdom. Started in wholesale and has been an expert in the industry ever since. We also have Mikko Rekkala, Chief Evangelist at Woolman. Mikko has served more than 350 brands and retailers and is currently consulting for Woolman's enterprise customers. You've probably all heard of Mikko as well because he plays a huge role in the Shopify community and is a massive evangelist on social. Today, we are going to be covering a lot. So we're covering checkout. We're going through order routing, complex products, Shopify Flow, and privacy updates. We'll be talking about Shopify B2B. AI features, including Shopify Semantic Search, Shopify Magic, Sidekick, and also some new enhancements from Klevu, like Klevu Moi. We'll be going through Shopify Market, Shopify Retail, POS. So a lot to cover. This webinar will be approximately an hour long. We will save time at the end if we can for questions, but if we don't have time, that's why I encouraged you to ask questions as we go in the chat so that we can make it part of the discussion. Just a little bit about Woolman and Klevu. We have a very collaborative partnership. We give growth advice for retailers and brands using Shopify. Woolman and Klevu are committed to helping merchants using Shopify grow and succeed. That is what this webinar is about. If you have any questions about anything, please contact either of us directly. Our websites are there. We work both closely with J.Lindeberg, also Rohan Jury, apologies, and Klevu also works with really big Shopify brands like Laura Mercier, Bare Minerals, Cambridge Satchel. A little bit about J.Lindeberg. Thank you, Andreas, for joining us. When we started working with J.Lindeberg, they were going through a website redesign and relaunch, and the team really needed a search and discovery tool that was easy to manage and worked with multiple markets like Klevu does, and integrated Klevu and experienced a 190% increase in revenue from search, which is hugely impressive and important. I don't know, Andreas, would you like to just come in and say a little bit about that?
No, we thank you a lot for that. I mean, we wanted to have a merchandising tool and a search tool, and to be combined. We saw a lot of, we could go either to have separate apps for it, but we tried to have it into one. I think it is all the data you collect there is more useful for both if you can integrate it. So yeah, you won the procurement, and we went live, and especially the search was a really big experience to see how it came to live and helped out, especially in multi-languages, etc.
Awesome. And now you're working with Woolman as well.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of, now it's up to 3 different Shopify agencies actually, and especially with so we built a site with another agency called Gabban, very design oriented, and then we approached Woolman. We had some talks over the years, and we wanted to have some help for a more complex setup, especially around Omni and the more technical parts and the checkout. Everything's going around on checkout. We did some workarounds, and so for go live and trusting the process and Shopify roadmap to develop more enterprise solutions. And Woolman has been really holding our hand in building the roadmap for this year for J.Lindeberg Ecom.
Amazing. And hopefully through this webinar, we'll help other brands as well do the same in understanding Shopify's roadmap. With that, I'm going to hand over to you, Tero, to talk about checkout updates.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this checkout update is something that we have actually been talking quite a long time, and there's been deadlines and there's been moving deadlines and so on. But why we wanted to bring it up here is that there was a lot of releases in Shopify's Winter Edition 24 regarding to this topic, checkout updates. And let's start from what are these checkout updates and what are actually the checkout extensions. Shopify checkout has been more or less closed system, and there's been a couple of ways to customize it before. It's been the checkout liquid that allows to do things within the checkout pages, and it's been quite limited. And then the other thing that can have been used is the Shopify scripts to basically to give discounts, manipulate prices, and do a couple of other things like hiding, sorting, renaming payment methods and shipping methods. And that's been basically what you can do with checkout customization so far. And now, and of course, those customizations that have been done before with checkout liquid and scripts has been very kind of customer specific. There's been scripts that have been shared as a template or something, but basically every customization have been customer or merchant specific. And from Shopify point of view, of course, that is a bit problematic when you are developing the platform further. You always have to think about the customizations, like it used to be with other non-SaaS e-commerce platforms overall, that when you can access the core code, you can customize it. And when you are developing further, you need to think about what type of customization merchants have done. Now the Shopify wants to turn this completely to app game. Like the whole checkout experience can be extended or customized using apps, either public apps directly from Shopify App Store or custom apps that are developed. And I think this is like a great thing because it allows Shopify to move faster, and at the same time you don't need so many customization that are done for you. You can still do it when you have some really specific business reasons to do it, but you will get a lot directly from apps. And now in this winter edition, they released 14 new APIs to do things. So we are now able to do much more things that we were able to do before the winter editions. And there's still more to come. And I think this is the biggest thing overall, that in Shopify ecosystem, we have been focusing a lot on store pages. Apps are basically working on store pages. Now the checkout is also the playing field, and that's where the conversion happens. So even though everything is still not open, but it's a good thing because then you can have the robust, secure checkout from Shopify, but there is a clear points how apps can be in the checkout. And it's not just specific customizations that you are creating some cart validation or address validation, credit checks, but basically any app who has a specific area, like let's say product recommendation is a really easy topic that you could now recommend products inside of the Shopify checkout, and even the post-purchase recommendation. Your loyalty program can show your points and so on in the checkout. You can have a different type of shipping calculations and many things that were not possible before. Now you can build an even much more specific business cases than before. And the key thing there was the UI components that they were releasing that are allowing us to do different type of apps. That's kind of a toolbox for developers or merchants who wants to customize the checkout. And from the Nordic point of view, one good example is the map. Here is in this slide, you can see a picture of a pickup point map that has been missing kind of from the Shopify extensions, and with Shopify Liquid it was already quite complicated, but now we have a map component that we can utilize for pickup points or other things. This is a very early version. I'm sure it will be developed even further, like everything, but yeah, now it's possible, and it is a good example. And then Shopify is also using these extensions for new customer accounts. So it's a two kind of domains within e-commerce platform. It's the checkout and the customer accounts. This one I'm not so fan of, but I understand why they are doing it. There might be a lot of customizations on the customer pages itself, specifically on the B2B side. There is a lot of things that are usually added after the order numbers, whatever vehicle numbers, if you are selling vehicles or something like that need to be added to the order after the order is made. But earlier, the new customer accounts we were not able to customize them at all, but now these extensions are also going to that to that side. And then there is very different type of extensibilities. There's branding extensibility, there's this UI components, there's functions to do different type of discounts, pricing, there is tracking API to customize the tracking within the checkout, but there's also other capabilities like order routing that we are going to talk about later. Also now, thank you, and order status page supports checkout extensibility, which was excluded earlier. But I think the main thing here is to understand that this will be maybe the main focus of the whole Shopify ecosystem, to develop features, capabilities for the merchants that they are adding things to checkout, and also for merchants that are doing bit unorthodox online business or B2B business, they need a lot of things in the checkout that has to be there to make the business case valid. So we are allowed to build much more complex setups than before.
Yeah, it's very exciting times. Of course, when we re-platformed to Shopify, we went from having a one-page checkout or express checkout, so to say, that's very common in the Nordics and in Europe, to this 3-page checkout that Shopify now has. It was very interesting to see how different countries reacted to it. So I'm a bit curious to see how especially the German and UK markets will react on the one-page checkout now, that they are kind of used to having this slow, steady process of 3 pages. It's a cultural shift, definitely, but of course everybody's gonna be on it, and there is a deadline for August, I think, right, for doing further updates on the old checkout.
Yeah, there is a deadline in August, but it's extended to 2024 most part. There's like some part of it's deprecating in August, most part in August 2025. And I'm glad you mentioned the one-page checkout, because that may be one of the key drivers to get the one-page checkout, is to move from old checkout to new checkout, even without any customizations. And of course, you still have the alternative in the future to select from 1 page to three-page checkout. So that's one thing, that you can select which one you are using. And specifically here in Nordics, there's been few providers like Klarna that have been driving this one-page checkout for a long time, and it's been kind of an industry standard. And I'm very glad that Shopify can bring the same type of experience with pickup locations and one-page checkout, even though it's very familiar when it's in a 1-page mode or a 3-page mode. It's basically the same steps, but it's still I think it's easier to use and understand what is happening in the checkout.
Yeah. Do you think there will be like a possibility to continue to do a 1-page for the Nordics, for instance, and a 3-page for the UK?
Yes. That is there's this new checkout has this checkout editor, and you can select there which one you are going to use.
Are you still using the new, so to say, checkout?
Yeah. I think currently the setting is Shopify instance specific, so you can select which one you are using within one instance. But there might be a way to do it later, so that you can select per market which one you are using.
Cool.
And I could add from sort of like a commercial perspective, as we've been super technical now on. So for those merchants who haven't focused enough on checkout, to keep a reminder that it's actually vital. It's one of the most important steps during the customer journey. It has to be on brand. I see lots of emerging brands where the checkout looks like it would be from a different store. And now you will have more possibilities in terms of the layout, visuals to modify it. And then the second, which I keep referring a lot for, especially the CPGs, that you should have your upsells and cross-sells during the whole customer journey, meaning the mini cart, but also meaning the checkout. And in the future, there will be more possibilities. I do know, as example, that Klevu has already that option, but it's now interesting to see how it will develop. And could you, as example, do cross-sells with additional services or warranty or something like that here, how to make it happen. So now you will have more flexibility. So as Tero pointed out, this is an opportunity for all the vendors as well to sort of like rethink the whole checkout. But my strong recommendation would be, number one, to check out that your whole checkout looks the same as your store does. It's on brand. And secondly, should you have some kind of cross-sell or recommendations in checkout, in mini cart, in cart, to make sure that customers can increase their average order value during the whole shopping journey.
Yeah, really big one. Thank you. Is it okay if we move on to the next slide? I'm conscious of time. All right, awesome. Any other questions about checkout? Please put them in the chat and we will look into them.
All right, here we have some selected updates from the huge tech that Shopify was releasing, and of course there was things that are still in beta or early access, but here's some picks that we took, and I think the first one here is the really interesting, specifically for a bit larger merchants and of course for the enterprises. Like this is one step that it really makes one step closer that makes Shopify really enterprise proof solution, and it's this order routing and fulfillable inventory. Let me explain what it means. This means that basically we can have multiple warehouses. Let's say a simple case that could be that we have a merchant in Sweden. There might be actually this type of merchant in the chat that knows that this type of configuration is quite common, that we have a merchant in Sweden. They might fulfill, for example, their orders from Swedish warehouse to EU area. And then they have another warehouse in UK where they're fulfilling orders to UK only. And then they might even expand that they have a next one in the US, and in the US, from the US warehouse, they're only fulfilling to US, and then maybe Asia, Australia, so on, to expand it as far as they want to go. And this order routing fulfillable inventory allows us to restrict the countries where we are shipping from specific warehouse. And this is important when you think about that later. We will get a support for, hopefully this year, we will get a support for legal business entities. So these goods that are in the warehouse can be actually owned by different companies legally. So the cross shipping is quite difficult to solve. And also there's other reasons like the shipping cost and so on that you want to restrict where you are fulfilling from. And this fulfillable inventory allows you to do that. You can select that, okay, my UK warehouse is only delivering to US, my Swedish warehouse is delivering to EU, and so on. And it's not only the backend side that this is restricted, but it's also the UI side, the UX for the customer, that they can see their own availability. So when they are landing on your site using Shopify Markets, they can see that if I'm from UK, I can see the availability in UK. From EU countries, I see my own availability for EU deliveries, EU fulfillment. US, Asia, same thing. You can see if the product is available for you or not. And this applies everything, like in a longer run, that it allows search engines to show the right search results based on your location and availability.
And it would be really interesting, sorry to interrupt, to see if we can solve it down to choose on, because it will be different lead times in shipping and maybe also in pricing per product. We can start solving that. I mean, it's nice to have the extra fulfillment. Something is sold out in that size, you can take it from another even continent, but be aware of the higher price and the lead time.
Yeah, and that is included that these different fulfillment centers can already have a different pricing. We can communicate that to customer, the lead time, the fulfillment times, that's already in place, all of that. And on top of that, we also have the order routing, so we can optimize even further. So let's say that within EU area, you have 2 or 3 warehouses. You can have other rules like closest warehouse is fulfilling to that customer. When you have multiple warehouses serving the same market, when you are getting larger and larger.
Do you think that would also apply to like ship from store, that you have your different store network there?
Yeah, you can have a different shipping origins, and you can basically from store level of inventories like any inventory, you can decide if you are shipping from your store to which specific countries you are shipping from the store. You don't have to ship from small stores to US. That doesn't make sense because you need to create custom documents and everything. Maybe handle a duty paid fulfillment options from store that you don't have an integration for or something.
Maybe not on the regular, but there are, of course, sometimes when you have limited edition products, they only have a few or very expensive products that in the end it could be useful for the customer to take that decision. Because it's rolled out everywhere, right?
Yeah, now you can kind of select if the store is fulfilling at all. That's been basically there, but also that where it's fulfilling from. And on top of that, we are coming to that, but POS is also supporting now the ship from store better, than that you don't need a backend laptop. You can do it directly from your iPad shipping. So it's this multi-channel, multi-warehouse capabilities are getting a lot better. And when we later get to this year, we should get the support for multiple legal business units. Basically, there's not really any reason to have expansion stores anymore. There might be some edge cases, but basically most of the merchants can consolidate all their Shopify extension stores to one and sell globally from one system. We have support already for other things that we are going to mention on market side, but CMS is market specific, domains, prices, all that is already in place. So basically we don't, after these two things, that now we get the second last, and when we get the last one, we basically can consolidate everything to one Shopify instance.
Miko,
does anyone have any questions about this order routing, or should I move on? I think from time reasons we might. Another very interesting update which has been waited long was the increase of variants from 100 to 2000 now. And Shopify did it API first, that now you can add 2000 variants through API, and I know why, because there's ecosystem apps that doesn't understand that there is merchants that might have 2000 variants, so they gave a 1 year for developers to build their apps, but you can already utilize that using API. And the combination of 2000 variants, Transform API, which is very powerful to create new type of dynamic bundles and so on. And Shopify functions, we can create very complex products like product configurators, various type of bundles, even dynamic bundles that customers are kind of building themselves. And now we have a really good building blocks, and not really any workarounds needed. We have the building blocks to do that type of, let's say, customization, but with the standard blocks or standard components.
I just want to jump in here, Tero, and also just say that we've done some research on our side, and Klevu can absolutely support also 2000 variants. It's kind of built into our system already. So it's really nice to see Shopify making that enhancement. Yeah, that's very important, that these key Shopify ecosystem players like Klevu or Klevu or whatever are supporting this type of things, and that's the most important thing, that merchants can really use it.
Yeah. Andreas, I would love to hear your view, because you have a long, extensive background. You've been with other platforms as well. If you look at these updates, are these the types of updates you are wishing to have as a merchant? Are these sort of like tackling the possible issues you've had with Shopify? Is Shopify moving into the right direction from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, some of this kind of is like hygiene level that you kind of expect to have inside of a e-com business, right? So it's certainly putting things where they should be. But what I think is different from my experience, at least, is that talking about these things is maybe something you in a other setup with e-com solve through your ERP or through your VMS instead. And Shopify is unifying all that up in the platform, which makes it so much easier. So I think that is the big difference. And so one side of the question is like, yeah, you expect it, but Shopify is taking that extra leap to put it into the platform and not being reliable on other parts in your system. So that makes things much easier and much faster and smoother, and you don't have to rely on more other parties and to maintain it.
Very good that you mentioned that warehouse management system, for example. Everything that I mentioned about order routing and fulfillable inventory, all that is done already in Shopify before the order is made. So all the routings are done there. So basically, when you have a pre-connected warehouse management system, let's say ongoing is big in Europe and Nordics, which is already connected to Shopify, you don't need to change anything because they already support this so-called multi-warehouse and fulfillment orders integration. So basically, you can just plug and play 3PL inventories around the world which are connected to Shopify, and all of those are already supporting order routing, fulfillable inventory settings in Shopify.
But of course, we need to pop the hood a bit to see how do we connect it to our ERP still, right? And to our VMS, etc. If we are in this custom setup already, but it's definitely blurring the lines on is Shopify a platform or is it more a combined platform ERP? The same thing it goes when you talk about PIM. You do a lot of PIM things in Shopify, right? And sometimes you use a PIM to do a lot of other things and combine all the content and data points, but Shopify is taking more of that as well. So it's definitely blurring the things around the bigger systems around you. If you can go fully Shopify in the end or not, it's quite an interesting journey.
Yeah, they definitely want to be commerce platform instead of e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
Then a couple of quick selections. Shopify Flow now allows to run code actions, which is really great because Flow has been there for a while, but in many cases, when you really need it, it doesn't do exactly what you want. But allowing to run code within Flow, it allows a lot more. Of course, it might need a developer, but at the same time, Flow is free and it's kind of a application running that you don't have to maintain. You don't have to have your own application servers. You can script it to Flow and automate a lot of things that might otherwise need a custom app and could be a costly.
It's been very good for retail up until now, even on this level. It's kind of an AI for solving things to put this into the automation. It's super good. Take a lot of manual work away.
Yes,
very
it
appreciated.
does. And then, of course,
you know what level it can do complex things.
Sorry, could you repeat?
You know kind of to what level of complexity it will be working on?
Well, it's not a custom app. It's still kind of event-based, but now you can kind of have an extensions that are utilizing other APIs via code, and you can add information from other APIs, which basically then allows quite a lot. It's still not a thing that is polling your system or doing things completely automatically, for example, as a scheduled event, but it allows you to do a lot more since you can fetch more information from other APIs.
Do you think there will be apps using AI to then put automations into place via this thing?
In a way, apps are already capable to do that, and some apps have their extensions for Shopify Flow. This is more like that you can customize the flow logic itself a bit more. I think this is more for merchants than app developer function. That kind of already exists. Then it's question of app how far they have gone with Flow already or not.
Yeah.
Just going to interrupt and just to say let's pick up the pace a little bit because I want to make sure that we can get through. But I do know this was like the chunkiest bit. So
yeah. this was definitely it. Just quickly mentioning that, of course, they've done a lot of work on the background, that there's like a store performance went up for 35%, which is a great thing for them, and everyone using a native build, and also for example, the per region privacy features, that you can have a different setting for different areas, is something that you might gain a lot of benefits. Performance itself, there's other things that, for example, now there's a standard place for, let's say, product reviews, and everything that is not calling a third-party system is making your app faster. So, for example, there's better way how the ratings and reviews app, for example, function in Shopify, and makes your site faster and less need for headless architecture if you don't really need it. But let's move on. Yes, of course, B2B is the big part that came a couple of years ago, and it's getting better. And I have to say that Shopify definitely started from the right parts, but it's still not there in every aspect. There's still some gaps that are missing or needs customizations, and there was well, not a lot, but still quite a lot of announcement related to B2B. Of course, one important thing is that these custom discounts, these Shopify functions that are also like a checkout extensions, can now be utilized with B2B customers. So once again, much more complex cases can be done with Shopify B2B. They also came with B2B sales rep and permissions and support. That is on the admin side. I was really looking for having act as a user for the storefront side, but this is the admin side that you can only access your own customers, or you can act as on behalf of customer on Shopify admin side. The important thing is that you can also sell now non-physical products for B2B. Services, for example, very important thing. One thing that is missing is still the subscriptions. Subscriptions are not supported yet for B2B. There's use cases for that also on the B2B side. And then, of course, B2B got their first specialized team from Shopify. And here is an example from how we have been using our Taika team to create very specific B2B views. Here in the picture, there's an example that you can use a predictive search like Klevu or any predictive search, and then you can add products directly from using product code, and you can add the variants directly your cart and multiple at the same time, so which makes it very fast to use. But there's a lot of these B2B features like pre-orders and things like that are not really D2C orders, D2C capabilities, and the teams need to support them more and more. But of course, there is still quite a lot that we are waiting. And for example, better support for pre-orders, or kind of a persistent shopping cart, for example, is something, or out of the box customer self-onboarding process is something that you can still quite easily customize, but why it needs to be a customization is maybe the good question with these features. Mikko, is there something that you would like to fill into this part?
Yeah, there are like so many things. As a former B2B merchant, I love the pace how Shopify keeps adding these updates there, and that they started sort of with those brands that already were on Shopify doing, as example, D2C. Now you can do B2B easily there as well. But out of many of the cases that we've done, is it so that it's in a B2B category, but they haven't have any platform. So they've done the business in Excel sheets or whatever. And now they have the first actual platform, and they're absolutely loving it. And I would like to actually draw this to the extent that what we've noticed is that B2B is becoming more and more like B2C. And Rachel, as example, Klevu, you can support search and merchandising and recommendations in B2B Shopify as well. So what would be your take, how important this is for a provider such as Klevu?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a B2B side, there's customer groups and pricing. There's often really large catalogs with very specific products in. People who are searching for those items might not use the words that are in your product catalog. They might not use the right terms. They might spell it wrong as well. So being able to have a search that can know what the shopper means when they're searching for it. Also, personalization is a really good one, because oftentimes B2B shoppers are searching for the same thing over and over again. They're really just trying to get in, get out, get on with their day. And they need to get to something fast that they need. So AI search and merchandising plays a big part in the success of B2B merchants. And we've seen that B2B merchants that use Klevu search get 47% more revenue from search than those that don't, for that very reason. And we all know that B2B conversion rates are astronomical anyway for a lot of the B2B industries. So, getting that up there is, a really big key to driving more revenue for the business. And it's a relatively small investment for the ROI.
Superb. What about Andreas? What's your feeling about Shopify's B2B? As you've seen platforms, you've been in the business for ages. So is this something that you're actively looking at, or what's your take on Shopify's B2B so far with these new announcements?
I mean, the overall B2B is very heavy and slow-paced moving. You need to have everything in place until you want to change your way or tools. So it's a lot of things in the details, and I advised in another pre-study for another company, actually helped out a case where we struggle a lot when we get into the details of the business to business, right? It's when you're really there and have all these different channels and flows and different customer selling points. It's a very complex thing, and you want the need to get it smooth and easy flow in business to business as e-com is. You have that expectation for it when you move from offline to online sales tool. So it's a lot of things that need to be done and to be worked on. But I think in generally going, as I said, very good pace and solving a lot of things that was needed for this update, but still a lot of things in the details that we need to find solutions for.
Yep, from the B2B merchants are very often very ERP driven. So, and these processes can be very customized. Let's say, as an example, there can be different type of fees for different markets, different products, and so on. So it's often the ERP integration itself that it has to be a bit more custom than in the D2C side. Now, for example, on D2C side, Business Central users are nowadays doing integrations very fast because there's really good iPaaS solutions available. But when it comes to B2B, even though there's iPaaS solutions on that side, but how they are using their ERP, what is their B2B business, there's so much more exceptions that needs to be handled. And we can do a lot of customizations on that side too, but the process is much slower than moving D2C business from one e-commerce platform to another.
Yeah, especially D2C brands has a big upside here to not get into heavy and costingly ERP solutions for B2B that usually is, and have everything in one. Yeah.
Are we okay to move on?
Cool.
Sure. Yes.
All right. So quickly through some AI features. Do you guys want to start just talking about like what Shopify Magic is, Shopify Sidekick?
Well, I can cover this in a quick manner. So there has been lots of discussion about the Sidekick. Well, after the winter editions, there is still like so much unknown. It's coming. They are promoting it heavily, but it's not there yet. Then again, with Magic, it's the complete opposite. So it's already been there. It's, I would say, mainly aimed at SMBs. But the feedback we've actually received from our customers is super positive. Some of the new features is that it enables easier AI image improvement with the background removal, and it does also help with some of your content production. And I talked with some merchants that are selling like 10 million euros plus that are using it, and they have been very happy with it. But in general, it's slightly aimed at sort of like smaller and more emerging brands. It's definitely a pro on the platform, and it's something that the audience is actually looking for, because these days everybody are talking about AI. So now Shopify needs to make sure that in their offering they have AI included. It's definitely included in those ways. I think Sidekick as an idea sounds great, but it should be pretty complex to get on the level that they've sort of like promised. Therefore, we need to still be patient. But Rachel, I would love to hear about Klevu in the AI space as well. So what's your offering? What can you offer for merchants? And how serious are you about AI?
Yes, great question. Before I dive into that, though, I just wanted to mention that, there's other specialist platforms doing this well, too. I had a little play around with Klaviyo AI the other day, even using Klevu search events, because we integrate with Klaviyo, and building out segments using Klaviyo AI. And that was quite a nice, like, specific, easy use case. And I think that's going to be the key here, finding those specific, easy use cases, because the Pandora's box could open with Shopify with everything that retailers would want to do with Sidekick. But yeah, Klevu's launched something called Klevu Moi, which is a conversational search. It is available now, basically a search that talks back within the search box. That's really cool. We've also launched something called PQA. That's kind of the beta title right now, so forgive me if it changes, but it's already producing conversions and value for retailers. That's on the PDP. So a shopper can actually ask questions about that specific product, and it utilizes the data that Klevu has in the product catalog, as well as information on the page, and in a very ring-fenced way sends some data and prompts to an LLM to bring it back and get more information for the shopper about suitability for different things. So we're really excited about AI, but also just to remind everyone, we've been AI native since 2013. So it's not new for us. And I think that's the thing that retailers should look for when they're looking for a provider that says they do AI. There's a lot of AI washing at the moment.
That is definitely true. I think 2023 was a year that everybody needed to announce their AI strategy, and Shopify as a Nasdaq company is not an exception. They just had to do it. I think in many ways this is still like early days, that there's some things where you can use it, and it is a combination like ecosystem tools and Shopify. But at the same time, Shopify definitely have resources that they could build something really specific inside Shopify admin, for example. That it's not a big surprise for me is if 2 years from now, the teams, for example, if you're running native Shopify store with the teams are actually much better, but at the same time, many of the customizations can be done via AI, so that you don't need a developer to develop the team, and you need a developer to possibly to create custom integrations or specific business apps for you. But the small changes to the teams that are already kind of supporting every feature and function in Shopify out of the box, but how you want to look like, or how do you want the feature be in your store, you can possibly do that with the AI. But it's not today, but maybe 2 years from now or 2 years from now.
Very interesting. I'm going to move on because I think we've still got markets to cover, which we need to spend a little chunk of time on. Yeah.
All right. Shopify markets, very important thing, like I said earlier, that we can now consolidate almost everything, every case to Shopify markets. And we are getting more and more support also, or from Shopify side, that way that the remaining pieces are coming together. For example, their analytics and marketing filtering is now supporting Shopify markets. You can do order any editing in multi-currency. important thing. Of course, it might be that you are doing that outside of Shopify in your ERP system or something, but still this type of features that are really helping to use full potential of Shopify markets overall. I think the importance is that that since Shopify markets is not a language version, you have to remember that it's a lot more than language. It is the currencies, it's the price list, it's the local availability, like we talked about earlier, and all of these pieces, domains, shipping options, whatever has to come together. And there's of course some pieces that they couldn't put together at once, but now they are kind of one by one adding support for more complex and not so much used features like order editing. It's a bit shame that we don't have Shopify Markets Pro in Europe, because I think we are the heaviest users of Shopify Markets in the whole globe. But I understand that there is many of these services around the Shopify Markets Pro are like tax services or shipping services, which are kind of local, and you need to have also a contract with your local players from that point of view. So it's not that simple to just expand it to every single region in the world, because it needs the support from the local services. Shopify has also updated the search and discovery app, and good thing about the app has been that it was the first to kind of utilize the Shopify markets, the key components, all of this availability, the price list, the language, and so on. And they also introduced semantic search, but the ones that have been using AI-based search, this might be a disappointment. It's not there yet. It's not that configurable, and it's, well, the price quality is very good because it's free, but at the same time, it's not on the same level than the real AI tools yet. And I'm really happy to see in the search space that companies like Klevu are really putting effort to Shopify markets. Same thing with Recharge, same thing with Klaviyo, and Korkias on customer support side. Like, this is important that we get the support, but since it's so wide topic, it doesn't happen overnight. And of course, the fulfillable inventory that we already mentioned many times.
Totally. I could fill in a few details here. Number one is that Shopify Markets was mentioned 100 times in the whole editions release. So it's definitely a heavy topic where Shopify is setting more resources. Kind of many of our customers have explored markets late last year, but the majority are going to market setup this year. So Rachel, what's your support with markets from Klevu's point of view? What do you see happening with your customers currently running on Shopify? And additionally, just a reminder, I wrote to the chat that our LLIS, our data management platform, has full support for Shopify markets, because we noticed with cases on scale that customers are then with the market setup slightly struggling with the data part, that you will have as example like 3 or 5 or 13 different markets. Every single one has different currencies. You might have different colors, different SKUs, whatnot. It might become a bit messy, especially if you have been in a setup where you have extension stores. I was back in the day myself a merchant with 17 extension stores. I meant that I had 17 Shopify, Google Analytics, 17 Facebook pixels, and all of that. So it was like rather messy. So that's exactly the topic where we can help with our analytics part. But Rachel, we'd love to know that what's the level of support Klevu can give for a Shopify markets merchant these days.
Absolutely. So as you said, Tero, earlier, it's up to the ecosystem to keep up with Shopify. And to be fair, it's taken us a little while to get fully compatible with markets, but we are fully compatible with markets now, which is really exciting. that will be rolling out to net new customers this month, and then to existing customers just shortly thereafter. So within the next couple of months, anyone who is on Klevu will be able to fully use Shopify Market's compatibility. Before I move on to that, though, I also wanted to mention one small thing about the Shopify semantic search, because it's interesting that it's like wrapped up in the markets release, but it only works in English. So that was surprising to me. Whereas Klevu is fully multilingual, so I do think it is a better option for those with multiple markets.
We tried it out as well, quite to see what it offered, and it was better than before, definitely, but it's not as complex and useful as Klevu right now.
Yeah. So this is an example of what the app is doing now. So Shopify Markets feeds will come directly through the Shopify app plugin. Any of the stores in the KMC, and then each store will be visually merchandised separately for the moment. In the next phase, which will be coming soon, we will have global merchandising and multi-store global rules. So that fourth column here becomes like a lot easier to manage. So this is a top priority for Klevu, and we're really excited to get people using it and to just hear your stories about how this is working for your stores. POS, 3 minutes left.
My absolute favorite. Let's go quick. So the biggest thing that you should know is that it's now being rebranded as Shopify Retail. So in all of the marketing messages and everything, it will be retail. The sort of like the second important thing here is that it's very much loved by Shopify's Chief Revenue Officer, Bobby Morrison. Bobby loves it, and they are heavily investing in retail. In the States, there already are like really big brands that are using it. Some top retailers are using it, and it seems to work really well. We have been pioneering with POS in Europe as a company for a long time, but in Europe, it's still being pretty fragmented. So number one is that it's, as example, not yet available in Sweden. However, the positive news is that it will be available in France later this year. Was actually announced yesterday. So kind of many of the people who are here, British brands who have been thinking about it, that should I go with POS in the UK, but I also have some operations, as example, in France. Now it's getting closer. So definitely availability will be there. And then they announced new POS Go devices and some small updates here and there. In a POS world, the devil is in the details. So making sure that the small details are right, that is essential. However, as a European, we still slightly struggle that it's not available on all of our core markets, and it's only getting there. So we've loved it in the UK, we've loved it in Finland. Customers have been ultra happy with it. We can even help with the data part and everything. And it definitely brings you an uplift if you're using POS and then you're using loyalty programs such as Yotpo or Loyalty Lion. Then you have all the data in one silo. It's superb. But then that the availability is still limited in some markets. That is definitely still like somewhat troublesome. Additionally, what I want to tell here is that Adyen is also coming to Shopify ecosystem. You might have seen the press releases, and it's very close. Andreas, what's the role of Adyen in the more like enterprise space from your perspective?
It's very welcome, because then we have now one base currency per store, right? And it will enable multi-currency payouts and avoid FX fees, etc. So it will for sure mean a couple of points on the EBIT row, and of course also there, if we can use Adyen in store and offline, that is some good usage as well, because it's combined all the data there. So moving definitely in the right direction.
What about Tero? Any thoughts on the POS developments here?
I really like this multi-channel approach that they have, because this is something that is really difficult to achieve if you have a separate POS system and separate e-com system. And even you can combine it with the B2B. Every all of these are using the same data, gathering it together. You can analyze and all these exchanges, ship from store, ship from pickup in store, ship from online warehouse, gift cards, discount codes, everything. That is huge amount of data flows if you try to do it any other way. So yeah, the biggest obstacle is that the local support currently in some countries like Sweden and Norway, for example.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tero, Mikko, Andreas. Thank you all for joining us today. I'll stay on for just 30 seconds longer if you want to put anything in the chat. But yeah, thank you. Sorry, we were a little rushed. Yeah, I hope you got value from it.
Cool. Bye.
Thanks. All right. See ya. Have a good day.